Hi, I'm Claire. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, and I'm here today to talk to you about doshas. So whether you're new to Ayurveda or you've been following it for a long time, you will have come across, I'm sure, this word, the doshas, and probably had a bit of fun trying to figure out which one you are, doing the online quizzes and the questionnaires. It's a really fun topic, the doshas, and people always come with the question, what dosha am I? So if you're a bit confused about that, hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll have a better understanding about what the doshas are and what you might be. So first of all, just to tell you what they are exactly. So we have three doshas. They are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, or you may have heard it called Kapha. And these three doshas are made up of all five elements, the building blocks of life. So we have air and ether, fire and water, and the earth. So Vata dosha is made up of the air and ether elements. So this within the body, it's responsible for all movements of the body and for our breath and our circulation. It lives in the small spaces in the body. The Pitta dosha is made of fire and water. And this represents our metabolism and our comprehension, our power of thought. And the Kapha dosha is made up of water and earth. And this in our bodies is represented by naturally we have a lot of water in our bodies and lubrication, and also the cartilage and the bones, so these kind of building blocks of the body. So those are the three doshas, and those are how they form the different parts within us. But it's much, much bigger than that, as you've probably already found out. So doshas have a great deal of character and different characteristics about them. So the Vata person, typically, if you have a lot of Vata in you, you tend to have quite a skinny frame, quite tall, or often they can also be very short. They tend to be quite creative people, quite free-spirited. They can often go a little bit, when they're out of balance, into feeling a lot of anxiety, insomnia and that sort of thing. They can suffer with bloating. If you have a lot of the Pitta dosha in your constitution, then you tend to have quite an average frame. You can eat large amounts of food quite easily without really putting on or losing or gaining any weight at all. So they have quite an average type frame. They'll be prone more to kind of hot flushes, skin irritations, hot-headed as well, so they can sometimes get a bit irritable. And for the Kapha dosha, the people with more Kapha in their constitution tend to have a slightly more rounded figure, and they enjoy taking things easy. Kapha people are lovely, loyal, grounded people, very calm, but their sort of downfall is that they can sometimes go into that place of inertia where they would rather just have a little sit down and don't really get much done. So those are the three doshas. That's a bit of an idea of how they look in the body. But for most people, they're still confused at this point as to which one they are. Well, the first thing to remember is that we have all three within us. So we're all made up of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And most often, one or two of those doshas is going to dominate. So it's quite unusual to have someone that's an exact amount of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So we usually have different ratios. The other thing to remember is there's something called Prakruti and Vikruti. So your Prakruti is the innate doshic makeup, your innate dosha that is decided at the point of conception, which is really incredible. So this could have been that you could be, say, 60% Vata, you could be 30% Pitta, and you could be 10% Kapha. The Vikruti is the doshic current state. So this is often the imbalanced state of the doshas. So life, we are born, we have our Prakruti, we know what the dosha is, and then life happens. We have incompatible food, the wrong kind of lifestyle, and the doshas get pulled out of balance. And so often, this is where people get confused, because we're filling out the questionnaires, we're answering the questions based on our Vikruti, based on our imbalanced state. So we might be then getting an answer that tells us we're 80% Pitta, 5% Vata, 5% Kapha, and that's not actually our true nature. So the way I like to try and talk about the doshas to help people with this is I talk about them more as characters. So we've got our body, this is our home, this is the house where we live. And within this body we have three family members. And I'm going to stereotype people a little bit here, so don't get upset. But Vata is going to be the teenager. She's the free-spirited, rebellious type, the creative one, a little bit sensitive. She likes to come and go here and there, and she likes to feel free and untethered. And living with her in this house is her father. He's going to be the Pitta dosha today. He can be a little bit controlling at times, a little bit jealous, a little bit strict. It's kind of his way or the highway. And those two characters, those two family members, really rub each other up the wrong way at times. So this is true of Vata and Pitta. If you have too much of them in the body, they can really aggravate each other and whip each other up into a bit of a frenzy. You've got Vata with her air and ether nature, and she's winding up the Pitta fire and air don't make a great mix. So we have the third person in the family in this home, and that's the mother. So she's going to be the Kapha dosha. And she has that calm, gentle, grounding nature. And she's going to give everyone a cup of tea and a piece of cake and just tell them all to have a sit down and to not get so worked up. The point in all of this is that we need all three of these doshas. And at different times, they're going to be in different states of balance or imbalance. But by understanding how each of them works, like those three family members, you can bring out the best in all of them. So for Kapha, she helps to calm Vata down. She helps to soothe Pitta's temper. But equally, she needs that Vata energy to get her sort of stimulated and to get up and go. She needs Pitta to be a little bit organized and regimented about things so that stuff actually gets done. So we need all these doshas, and we need to kind of love all of them equally. And actually, you can worry a bit less about what dosha am I, because at the end of the day, the word dosha in Sanskrit actually means fault, the fault that lies within, the imbalance within. So really, when you're answering the questionnaires and you're just sort of telling yourself where your imbalances are, and if you have that understanding of the characters of the doshas, you can try to do things to bring in whichever family member is needed at that time. Remember, as with everything in Ayurveda, it's all about creating balance. So we're doing the opposite of whatever the issue is. So if you feel like you're that Vata character and you're spinning out of control and things are going here, there, and everywhere, and there's too much Vata in your body, you want to do the opposite things. You've got too much air and ether, you're bringing in the earth and the water. If you feel like there's too much fire in your body, you want a little bit of the Vata, it's nice and cooling. You want a good dose of the Kapha, again, for that grounding and that soothing energy. And if you feel like you're a little bit stuck in life, like, things aren't really going the way you want to, you don't really know what to do next, mood's a bit low, maybe you've got a little bit too much Kapha going on. So find that friend who's more of that Vata personality. Get them to kind of get you to step out of your comfort zone, do something different. Have more of that Vata energy. So that's a little bit of an introduction into the doshas. It's something I could talk about for hours and hours because it's such a fascinating subject. The other thing that's so interesting about the doshas as well is it's not only something that lives within our body. As I mentioned at the start, they're comprised of the elements, the 5 elements, the building blocks of all life. So doshas govern so much of our life. They govern the time of our life. So from when we're babies to about 12 years old, we're in our Kapha time of life. It's that heavier time, right? We've kind of got the chubbiness of being a baby and we're growing and building. When we hit puberty, the Pitta fire comes and all hell lets loose. And we stay in this Pitta place till we're about 50 years old. And it's a time of great doing, as is the Pitta dosha's nature. It gets things done, it's drive, it's forward motion, it's ambition. And then from about 50 onwards into later life, we're in that Vata time when perhaps we have new chapters, new creativity, a chance to come into our wisdom is what it's seen as being when you enter your Vata time of life. So Vata governs the whole of our lives from when we're born to when we die. It governs the times of our cycle for women. It governs the hours of the day. We have Vata, Pitta, Kapha time of day. So it's so much more than just what dosha am I and what sort of personality am I, what's my constitution. It's a really, really interesting subject. I hope you've enjoyed learning a bit more about doshas today. And if you want to learn more, there are more videos that I've recorded for Kama Ayurveda on their website. Thanks so much for joining.